Wow, look at this press conference, huh? What's up, gang?
So,
Everybody's in town already, huh?
Dana, if we could start, first of all, the guy that you didn't take, like, you were very adamant. He had a knockout. He finished it in the third round. What was it that you didn't like about I'm not how to say his name, Belgori?
Well, everything. First of all, he looked like he was in a weight class. How they're in the same weight class is beyond me. He was 11-1 favorite. The other guy took the fight on short notice, poked him in the eye 4 or 5 times. Hit him with a combo, a 1-2 in both eyes at one point. And then came out in the third round and tried to finish it. I'm not interested.
And then Josias, right? That was an interesting fight. I mean, it wasn't his performance so much as what you think you see down the road in him?
Yeah. No, it was definitely his performance. The guy's undefeated. You can tell he's a freak athlete. You know all my Africa talk. This guy trains in the Congo. I'm assuming there's not a lot of good training partners out there. And he looked good against a guy who trains with one of the best in the world every day. And he looked great. I mean, if you look at him, his head movement, speed, wherever the fight went, he was good. And then you saw him start to get tired out a little at the end there, couldn't get the takedowns. So I think that you take this kid, Musasa, you bring him out here, you throw this guy in there and let him train with some killers out here for a while. This kid could be really good. And he's definitely got a chin.
Do you give the other kid, since you thought he won and you said you thought he had potential, do you bring him back and put him on another show?
Yeah, I could see him coming back. I mean, the kid's 9-1 now. Yeah, he's definitely talented. And he's only 26 years old. He's a young guy.
And then in the opening fight, the armbar, you sounded like you weren't as impressed. And it seemed like she came out and took care of business pretty good.
I agree. But I thought the beginning of the fight was a little, she's a girl who has 9 fights. And it looked a little sloppy to me at first. Looked a little sloppy and a little weird. But after she pulled off the armbar, I just chalked it up to nerves. She's probably very nervous. There's so many different things that I look at when I watch these kids, and she definitely looked nervous to me.
And then the whole thing with Cody's opponent pulling out. Tell us exactly what happened. Like, what was the sequence of events? Because somebody said Sean went back there and tried to talk him into fighting.
So Sean came busting in the back room and then walked right through and went somewhere. Apparently he went to the locker room. He had heard that this kid was pulling out. So he went back there, gave him a pep talk, and the kid said, yeah, and then got his hands wrapped again. And then halfway through the second fight, Sean got called again that he was pulling out. He rewrapped his hands. Right. Then said, I'm out. I mean, this kid flew in from Brazil. We flew him from Brazil, put him out here. But that's what this show is for, too. Sometimes you don't have to step into the octagon to know that this isn't for me. I can't take this. I can't handle this pressure. Whatever his deal was. And I'm not shitting on the kid at all. Listen, it happens. You show up here and, it's real. I mean, when you come here and you're 9-0 or you're this and that, and then the guy that you're fighting is also 9-0. And a lot of these kids have hype on them already. You get here and you realize it's not for you. I would rather have that happen here than in an event, a UFC event.
2 other questions I wanted to ask you. You're going to do the show Saturday in 1080p. Have you ever given thought to doing 4K? A 4K fight card?
No.
Is it just too much to?
Well, I don't know yet. I mean, listen. As technology continues to get better, who knows?
Okay. And then just, the $23 million, you said tonight that it was a sellout. So the $23 million, what does that milestone mean for you? Because I think that's, $6 million more than your previous record. Boxing has had those kind of gates, for a long time. Like, so for you to hit past the 20 million mark for the first time, what's the significance of that?
Yeah. It's a big deal, especially on a fight like this. But yeah, you know me. I love to break records. So this is going to be the biggest gate we've ever done in the history of the company, and the most pre-buys on pay-per-view ever too. People buying the event the week before the week of the event. So yeah, as we continue to get closer to Saturday, I'm sure we'll be breaking more records.
Dana, you talk about nerves on this show, right? Do you ever notice that compared to the UFC, guys in here have adrenaline dumps more often? You see them start more tentatively. Do you notice that when you watch these fights?
Sometimes. In some of the fights I do, and some you do not. I mean, some of the kids just come in here and deliver. But those are things we look at when we're looking at the talent and whether we like them, whether we're going to sign them. There's so many different little things we look at, but that's definitely one of them. But it's absolutely normal for that to happen, and I can't believe that it doesn't happen more.
Yeah. Do you almost sometimes think you're kind of seeing some of these guys almost at their worst, right? You can tell the nerves are getting to them. They still pull off the performance. So when they get more and more used to it, you're expecting maybe double the athlete that you get to see in here.
Yeah, just like the Ultimate Fighter, I like the fact that they get to get in here and feel the pressure and all the things that come along with coming and performing in here. And I'm sure they're still going to get it in their first fight in the UFC, but this definitely helps. Unless, like the old days, we would take these kids straight out of these small fights and bring them into the UFC. Now you get to get in here and not only feel the nerves, feel the tension, feel the pressure of it, but you also face off with somebody that's just as good as you, with the same record as you, that early on in your career. In most organizations around the world, that never happens. A 9-0 fighting a 7-0 or an 8-0 or 9-0. It just doesn't happen. It gives you another level of confidence when you get through the Contender Series. And like last weekend, we keep talking about her, but look at the amount of followers she has right now, the money she made. It's you can come in here and change everything in one night. And for us, now when she comes and fights in the UFC, everybody already knows her, and she's got a great story, and it's huge.
When something like this happens to Cody Steele's opponent, where he pulls out in the back, right? So obviously you see him, this isn't for him, but then you look at Cody and he takes his wraps off, then he's told the fight's back on, he has to get back in the mode, get his hand wraps again, and he doesn't miss a beat, he just gets it and does it. Do you see that and respect that?
I think he was a big reason why the kid cut his hand wraps off. You know what I mean? Obviously, his reputation preceded him and, made this guy, and apparently, this kid has a real record, and he apparently beat Pereira. So fascinating, but.
Yeah, so this Saturday, obviously the Sphere show, you've done a lot of media ahead of it. Now, with just sort of days to go, I'm sure there's last-minute rehearsals and stuff. What would you describe your emotions at? Is it excitement to finally show everyone you can back up what you've been saying? Is it nerves like, oh, shit, I hope nothing goes wrong? What are the emotions like heading into Saturday?
I'm pretty cool right now. Everything's there. All the bells and whistles are in place. Now it's just about rehearsal leading up to this event. And normally, when you change something in your production, right, you would rehearse it, you do it that night, and then you figure out, we didn't like this, we like that, and you start to make tweaks. There will be no tweaking. This is the way this is going to go that night, and it is what it is. And I'm very comfortable and confident going into this event.
If you could pick one biggest challenge that there was in getting this show to happen and getting it to work for a UFC event, what was the biggest challenge you guys had to overcome?
Lighting.
Yeah,
there's no lighting grid. So this will be the first event ever in the history of the company, probably in the history of combat sports, I would imagine, where there isn't a lighting grid hanging over the octagon. So you have lights, cameras, microphones, different audio, all up in that trussing up there, and that's all gone. So that was the big first challenge.
Yeah. Two more quick ones. This is a love letter to Mexico. Just out of curiosity, who is your favorite Mexican fighter in history?
Well, I was saying, when you talk about Mexicans and their place in combat sports history, I was a white kid from America who was a big Julio Cesar Chavez fan, to the point where I had his T-shirts and watched all his fights and. So I would have to say Chavez.
Cool. And last one from me. Jorge Masvidal says he wants to come back to the UFC. Just curious if you guys have an interest in bringing Jorge back and if we'll see him fight again.
That is interesting. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah.
Just one quick one. There's a lot of chatter about how the Sphere presentation will it'll be this big event in person, but they're curious how it will translate through the broadcast? Like, will it just feel like a normal UFC broadcast, or will it be different? Will there be a lot of, how will you allow people watching at home to feel the difference of the Sphere card?
So normally, every Saturday, we have 2 trucks, right? And there is a in-house live event that is different than the event that is on television that beams out to the whole world. There will be 2 more trucks added to this show. And you will have, Glenn Weiss is one of probably the greatest director in Hollywood right now. He does all the award shows. He's done them all. And when we called him and asked him to be a part of this, he said, "You guys are crazy. I'm in." He loves the challenge of this thing. So he will be shooting both of those things at the same time to try to give you the feel that you are inside the Sphere, whether you're watching it at home, in a bar, or wherever.
And you said there's going to be like movies playing in between fights, like the history of Mexico. Will fans be able to watch this in person even if they're not at the Sphere? Like, will they show it like on TV or like on YouTube?
Oh, yeah. No, this is, yeah. Yeah, there's movie, there's chapters. So each chapter starts before the next fight. So there'll be a show open, right? Then the first movie will run, and it will end at the end of the fight. And then we call them worlds. And the fight will live inside this world. And the world will evolve while the fights are going on, but it'll be very subtle. Clouds will move, fires will burn, birds will fly, or whatever the hell's going on in that world at that time, and it will slowly evolve during the fight. There are also going to be Easter eggs in each one of these films. And we're working it out with legal right now, but what I want to do, if somebody can find all the Easter eggs, they'll give you $25,000. And what else was I going to tell you?
Are they UFC Easter eggs, or like what kind? What are we?
UFC what?
Are the Easter eggs UFC related, or are they like, what are we looking for?
They are related to the show. Yes, they're related to the show. And I forgot. There's something else I was going to tell you. I forgot what the hell I was going to say.
So there's 10 fights. Will there be 10 movies?
No.
Okay.
The prelims will be different. This is during the main card. Yeah. So throughout the night, the show will progress throughout the night.
When you show the movies on TV, are you going to just show them like, I'm watching the movie, or are you going to show them from inside the Sphere as if you're watching the movie from inside the Sphere?
That's up to people that are way more creative than me. That's Weiss. These guys, that's what the stuff that these guys have to figure out. And the big question is, how does this work? When I was at the Sphere watching the U2 show, I said this 100 times, but you realize that the Sphere is the star of the show. So our second biggest challenge, other than lighting, was how do you make the Sphere the star of the show, but not during the fights? The fights are the star. You know what I mean? So these are all little things that we had to figure out, and now we have to execute it on Saturday night. But if you're Mexican, this is a fucking Rocky movie for you, man. This is like you're going to come out of there, and if you're not, you're going to wish you were Mexican on Saturday night.
So what's the final, like you said, they're going to be worlds. What's the final world? Is that present day?
Starts at the beginning of time, ends in the future.
What's the future of Mexico look like?
You're going to find out on Saturday.
Danny, to your right. Danny, right here.
Yep.
You always talk about being first and doing things that nobody else has done, and this is something, obviously it's a one of one, but where do you go from here? I know you talk about Africa, talked about Spain, but do you have plans for 2025 of big things that not necessarily eclipse this, but maybe on par?
It's funny because I've been talking this whole week and the week before about if Tom Brady doesn't call me and ask me to go to U2, I would have not gone to the Sphere yet. I just wouldn't have. I don't have time. And I just would have never gone to any of these. The Eagles are coming after us. I will be at the Eagles. I will be at that concert. But I wouldn't have gone to this event. And then the whole thing that happened with MGM, it's like this was meant to happen. It was meant to happen. And I'm looking at Noche different now. This is going to be a flagpole event for us every year. And then Monday, it's literally as soon as this event is over, Monday we start thinking about what's next year and how do we make it different and how do we make it exciting. Do we do Texas? Do we do Mexico, Arizona? And how do we make it different than it was this year? And then as far as next year, I mean, obviously, I've been talking about Africa and Spain and other places that we haven't been yet, and that's a big focus for next year.
Stadium shows, I know you're not big on outdoor things, but stadium shows feels like a next logical step. But I know you're big on fan experience. Is that like the biggest hurdle to deal with a stadium show?
What's the question about the
fan
hurdle?
experience? Because the Sphere
Yes,
is really about
100%.
fan experience. Stadium, it feels it's not the same, right?
Yeah, I don't like. First of all, when I put on a live event on Saturdays, I want the best in-house experience people can possibly have. And I want the same experience on television. And I just don't understand why I would need to do a stadium for what? I can get more people in there. It doesn't interest me. What interests me is putting on the best live event. If you think about, people always talk about how fast the sport grew. The live event is part of the reason that the sport grew like this, I'm not shitting on boxing, but a few years ago, I took my son to the Fury Wilder fight, right? And if you'd have told me I wouldn't take my son to a boxing match until he was 18 or 19 or however old he was, I'd have said, you're nuts. We literally left that event. I swear to God, my son said, I don't ever want to come to one of these again. It was completely disorganized. It was a shit show from the minute we walked in. And if all you've ever known is going to UFC events, you definitely notice the difference, right? I don't ever want any of our fans to have that experience on a Saturday night, whether they're in a bar, at home on TV, or the live event. But it's a fact. Nobody walks out of a UFC and goes, I don't ever want to come to one of these again. So I don't need to do a stadium.
Speaking of boxing, Oscar De La Hoya, I know you think he's, sitting on Canelo by coming to the Sphere. I don't know if you know for sure if he's bought a ticket or not, but is there a part of you that's kind of pleased that he's coming to see what you guys are doing?
Well, I got that call today. He's coming with Shake Turkey. He's part of his ticket block. I knew he wasn't part of my ticket block. That's for damn sure. Oscar does things that are good for Oscar at the moment. I'm not shitting on Canelo. And Al Heyman, good for you. You went in and got me on the date. You know what I mean? I respect Al Heyman and I like him, and I respect Canelo. And he'll be right down the street from us. And this isn't an Al Heyman Canelo thing versus Dana White. This is Dana White versus the MGM, okay? And I wish them all the best. I tell this story too. I was just in Mexico. We're driving, Mexico City. We're driving to the arena. There's a playground on the side. Swing sets, monkey bar slides, and a fucking boxing ring. A boxing ring in the middle of the playground. There are lots of people from Mexico that are huge boxing fans. Canelo is one of the greatest to ever do it. He's a legend and a hero in Mexico, and people will go watch him fight. What we're doing down the street is completely different than what they're doing, and ours is sold out in the biggest gate ever, too, so it's good for all of us.
Last question for me. From the day that you were at the U2 concert to now, has what you've been able to put together for the Sphere, has it truly exceeded your expectations, or is it what you envisioned? How would you quantify that?
It's exactly what I had hoped for. I'm excited about it. I'm proud of it, and I can't wait to play it. And we're going to find out at the end. You don't know until you do it. We've never done it. It's like the budget. You don't know the fucking budget till you do it, and then you find out. And we're going to find out on Saturday. And I look forward to hearing what everybody thought of it. The media, the fans, everybody. So I'm excited about it. I'm in a good place.
Dana?
Yep.
In the middle. Is Cain Velasquez going to be in attendance on Saturday?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And then if Sean O'Malley goes out there and knocks Merab out, is there a chance for him to just leapfrog and become the biggest star in the UFC? Because everybody will be watching this show. It will be viral. Everybody in the world is going to watch this. Is there a chance that he crosses over and becomes that guy?
Yeah, listen, he's right there anyway. When you talk about Conor's personality and all the things that make Conor McGregor, right? The one thing that Conor McGregor always did was he delivered on the big fights. When the big fights happened, everybody said he couldn't wrestle. Everybody said he couldn't do this and that. He went out and delivered every single time. And to become a big star like that, I mean, I remember having conversations with Ioli way back in the day when we were doing fights in Chicago and stuff like that with Anderson Silva. And they would keep asking me, what do you got to do to make people care about Anderson Silva? You know what Anderson Silva did to make people care about him? He kept winning. You know what I mean? In this sport, when you have what Sean O'Malley has and you can go out and win the big fights, and O'Malley's a smart kid like Conor too. He gets it. I don't know if you saw him on First Take today, but he gets it.
And then finally for me, there's a lot of Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov have been going back and forth about the fight has been offered. The fight was offered in Utah. The fight was offered for, I think, Madison Square Garden. Has that fight been offered to either of them?
Is what? Who?
Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Has that fight been offered? Was that fight offered for Utah?
Like, I don't even remember. Does it matter? You know what I'm focused on?
Saturday.
Thank you.
Dana, over here to the right. So obviously this weekend, big weekend, not just for you guys and for the Mexican population, but for combat fans in general. We obviously know there's always a set of group people that will watch MMA no matter what, and vice versa, boxing no matter what. But do you have a message for those that are maybe looking to watch something this weekend with all the events going on, and why they should watch Noche UFC?
Why should they? Because I invested $20 million in it. That's why. Listen, no. I don't have a message for anybody on why they should watch UFC Noche. You either want to do it or you don't. No.
All right, Dana, I want to ask you about I'm over here.
Yeah.
Your Mount Rushmore of mixed martial artists. ESPN asked you about it, and that always creates a bunch of debate. But I was wondering what your methodology was, because people are always saying, well, this guy was a better fighter than this person. But
I agree.
When you're doing
That's why if you ask me, I obviously have different, if you look at Ronda Rousey, which I'm sure everybody goes crazy, Ronda Rousey, women aren't fighting here. The knockout that happened last weekend doesn't happen without Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey opened the door for all women and became a huge superstar for us, and the biggest superstar in the history of female fighting. Right out the gate, as far as the gates, pay-per-views, attention, all of it. Nobody was bigger than Ronda. She started it all. Conor McGregor took this whole sport to another level when he became not only the biggest star in the sport, but one of the biggest star in all of sports. You had NFL and NBA and soccer players mimicking Conor McGregor during the games. If you guys want to get into the John Jones shit, we can get into that. But yeah, I'm obviously going to have a different criteria when you ask me who I think are, because of things that I know that happened inside the business and how it changed the game.
So for you, it's like a measure of the growth, like what contributed to the growth of the sport.
If you walk up to me and you say, no different than if I walk up to any of you, who's your Mount Rushmore? I mean, this is something you'd have to really sit down and look at stats and break things down. There's so many great fighters that have lived. You know, you could put Forrest Griffin in the Mount Rushmore. Where are we right now without Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner? You know? So when you talk about that type of stuff, to me, it's different than just who's the greatest fighter of all time or in each weight class. And then my other one was Georges St. Pierre. At that time, in the evolution of this company, right? When you think back, anybody who was around, a lot of people weren't around then, but the people who were, when you went up to Canada with Georges St. Pierre, I'll never forget the time that we were up there. I literally got stuck on a corner. I'm not kidding you, thousands of people. That's when I was tweeting tickets. Remember those days? When I had video blogs and was tweeting tickets? We literally almost got killed up there one day. And by killed, I mean like trampled by people looking for tickets. How big that was up there at that time was absolutely insane. And it was all Georges St. Pierre.
Yeah, you mentioned not doing stadium shows. That was one of the times.
100%. That too. You're absolutely right.
And going back to Jones, I haven't been here with you to spar about John Jones, but I don't really want to spar with you. What I'm wondering about is, I was at John Jones' first fight in Minnesota, and do you feel like the people this sport has grown so much and there's so many new fans, but do you feel like unless you were there in that moment to know that in the span of whatever it was, 16 months, him beating Shogun, Machida, Rashad Evans, like if you didn't understand what those guys were at that time, do you not really get why John Jones is the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. But numbers don't lie, and what this guy has done and what he's accomplished and what he's achieved. And like I said, it's not like, John and I have had the best relationship. And, when you talk about guys who helped elevate the company and the sport and everything else, you can't deny that John Jones is the greatest of all time. Never been beat.
What percentage of fans have, sort of cut you off, have become fans in the last 4 years? Because, if John Jones has fought once in the last 4 years, people don't really get it, is what I think.
So I can't remember what his, but one of the key executives of the Yankees was here tonight, and he came back and was talking to me in my room, and he watches everything, fight nights, pay-per-views, Contender series, The Ultimate Fighter. Guess when he became a massive fan and became obsessed with the UFC?
I'm guessing during COVID.
During COVID. Our fan base grew 69% during COVID. So yes, what you're saying does make sense.
And finally, in terms of Saturday at the Sphere, do you think you're going to have a chance to really kind of sit there and enjoy the show and soak it in, or are you going to be really obsessing over production like you often do?
Yes, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to watch this show 52,000 times from tomorrow till Saturday. So what's going on in the venue will not. And plus, there's not. So normally, you see the red phone. You see me get on the red phone. If I'm on the red phone, I'm not happy about something. I'm telling them that I didn't like this or I don't like that, and I want you to do this. There's no even point in even putting the fucking red phone in there on Saturday. It's just like, what I need to do Saturday is stay the fuck out of everybody's way and let them focus on what they need to do that night, because this is something that is so technically difficult to pull off. Just let it rip. That's it.
Hey, Dana, besides the Contender Series being the biggest thing in America going on tonight, your friend Donald Trump is having his debate. Have you had a chance to watch any of it, or?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you this. He called me an hour before the debate. I talked to him when I was coming here, right when we got off the plane. I was in L.A. today. And, I said, this, first of all, it's the second time he has to debate, right? He already did a debate. They didn't like how the debate turned out. So they want to kick that guy out. He's unfit to run, yet he's still the president of the United States. Now they bring in somebody who wasn't elected to actually be in there. And they'll only do it on ABC. It was 3-1 tonight for him. He was facing 3-1. So I don't know how it went or what happened, but I know he took it seriously. He said, "I look at this as like a heavyweight fight. I'm not taking anybody lightly." And
he said they're eating dogs and cats.
Huh?
He said they're eating dogs and cats.
Who's eating dogs and cats?
The Haitians.
Oh.
The Haitians.
Somebody was eating dogs and cats.
Okay. So what's that mean?
Ask him.
No, I think Ioli's referring to the Haitian immigrants that have been put into some populations, and some of them cook dogs and cats. But anyway, did you give him any advice?
I'll keep that between me and him.
One more thing. There's haptic devices in the seat.
Yes.
So is that going to be used in between during the movies or actually during the fights too?
The audio in this place is, you can't even compare it to anywhere else. The audio is incredible. And yes, the haptics in the seats, when there are slams, when there are things that are happening in the movies, you'll feel it in the seats. There's 10,000 seats that have it. So 10,000 people will have that experience during the show that night.
If their fighter loses, will they get buzzed?
No, but there are different, when the fights are announced, there are different types of celebrations that happen when a fighter wins, and that are all living inside the worlds.
And then this is like a one and done, $20 million at least being spent on this. What percentage of the experience can be captured outside of actually being there? Or is it you have to be there, or else you're only going to experience like 10% of what's really going on?
Yeah, I think that this is one of those, the detail in these movies. Each of these movies, each chapter is 90 seconds long. And there's so much detail in every one of these that when we do rehearsal and you run it 15 times, on the 15th time, you're noticing things that you didn't notice 1 through 14. That's how much detail. And it's me and Craig keep talking about it. It's like, it's almost a shame that you're only going to get to see this once. That's why I keep saying I think if everything goes well and we're happy with it at the end, I think we reformat this thing and you can go watch it again at the Sphere.
Is this the type of thing that you can't really capture on your phone or with all the TV screens, that it'll be something in your memories?
Trust me when I tell you, everybody in here and everybody watching, don't even fuck with your phone. Put your phone down, be in the moment, and just take it all in. Yeah.
You kind of answered my question, but U2's doing the VU2, which is back at the Sphere, and it's highlighting the event that happened there. With as good as that Roku documentary that came out, did you guys have the presence of mind to document this whole Sphere process? And will we be able to see how this was created?
So my goal in this thing is to be nominated for an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Grammy. So yes, there will be a documentary.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Dana.
Yeah.
Do you have any news about Charles Oliveira next fight?
Do I have any news about what?
Charles Oliveira's next fight?
No, sir. If it ain't happening on Saturday, don't even fucking ask me about it.
That's okay.
Hey, Dana, 2 quick things. One, not that it really matters that much, but when Aaron was asking you about your Mount Rushmore, a couple years ago you said Amanda Nunes was on there and not Ronda. And
depends on what you're talking about. If you want to ask me who, the greatest of the greats, there's no doubt it's Amanda
I was
Nunes.
just wondering the change from Amanda to Ronda.
Well, you called me on that day when I was at ESPN, and I was thinking about, I think there's different ways that you could gauge the Mount Rushmore. And for me personally, that day, I was talking about the business and the sport.
And then last question, you had referenced when we talked last week about people saying UFC 300 sucked. I actually did a column saying, does UFC 300 suck? Because so many people were saying that. Now, so many people are saying the Sphere is a flop. It hasn't happened yet. But at UFC 300, you had 11 former champions, and you had a lot of veteran fighters on that card. And so they dealt with the pressure of the big event, and they delivered. On this card, you don't have those kind of veteran fighters. Do you have any concern at all? You always say the fighters deliver, but do you have any concern at all that the moment may be too big for some of the younger fighters that you have on the card that don't have the experience that an Alex Pereira and et cetera had?
Right. 25 years, event after event, 100, 200, 300, all the shit talk about 300, and then as soon as it's over, it's great. I don't listen to any of this shit. I said this to Morgan the other day. All the experts and all the experts are in that fucking building next door. Shut the fuck up, sit back, and watch. There you go.
Dana.
Yes, sir.
Following up to what Kevin asked, I mean, last year we had Jair Rodriguez and Brandon Moreno headlining UFC 290, was International Fight Week. We have Alexa as a champion. But looking at the showcase of the Mexican talent you have on this card, because there's a lot of young guys like Sel Huber, Torres, Jasmine, Chaires, Lazy Boy. How much time do you think is going to be for you to have some other Mexican headlining a pay-per-view, something like Noche you want to do yearly?
Well, like to build off what Kevin was just saying and then what you asked, I mean, if you look at these people and you know anything about fighting, you know anything about matchmaking, stylistically, these are unbelievable fights, right? When you take these people that you believe in and that you believe have the potential and you build an event like this around them and they go in and they do what they do, everything just gets bigger. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, I mean, that's the answer. I don't know if that's the answer to your question, but that's the answer I'm giving you. Yeah.
All right.
Hope that helped. What's another question?
Over here to the left.
Yeah.
You've talked about bringing the Contender series on the road. Have you looked into that at all yet?
Not yet. I've been busy.
Do you know would that contain more fights?
We being the matchmakers, we love that idea. They, being the production people, probably do not. I don't know. I just said that one day off the cuff. It's interesting. But
And,
we'll see. We're still traveling around trying to get out there and do all the fight nights in different places. So
The Garden in November. Do you plan on having Wei Lee on that fight card?
I'm not even talking about anything other than Saturday.
All right.
Yeah. Good? Thank you. See you Saturday.